Hey everyone, it's Shelby, the Conservative Bookworm. Today is my first actual review of new books that I've read recently, books that have been published within the last few years. I'm going to be reviewing two books in this video. These books are for 8 to 12-year-olds. One of them might be, you might want a little older than maybe 11, 12, 13, depending on what you allow for your child. I'll talk about that. So the first one I'm going to talk about today is one that actually just finished last night whenever I'm making this video. It's called Where the Moon Meets the Mountain, and it is by Grace Lin. This is a book. Isn't it such a gorgeous cover? That's kind of what attracted me to it, the colors. It is a Newbery Honor book. It has illustrations in it, gorgeous illustrations. It is a Chinese fairy tale book. The author takes Chinese, popular, well-known Chinese fairy tales, well-known, I guess, to the Chinese. I was familiar with some of them. And she connects them together in one overarching story, following a little girl named Minli. And she's Minli and her dragon. See the dragon on the cover. Her dragon friend. So she doesn't have the dragon friend right away. She meets him. But they are on a journey to try to change their fortunes because she kind of has, you know, her family is kind of poor and her mother complains a lot about their circumstances. So she's like, you know, maybe my dad's stories that he says are true and I can go and ask the man in the moon, you know, how to change my fortune. So she does that. She goes on this journey, but the book is just really well done. Like, it moves along pretty well. You have all these really these stories within the story. You learn a lot about Chinese culture within this story. It does have magic in it because again, it's Chinese fairy tales. So there's some dragons, there's some things going on there. But the message, it was just really surprisingly just really good. Just a really good moral message. Really, it comes down to the book is about teaching and being thankful for what you have. Just being content with what you have and really learning to give of yourself to others. Giving of yourself to others before you take. Living a give way of life rather than a get way of life. And how giving to others, in turn, it comes back to you fourfold. So it was just a really heartwarming story, really sweet, entertaining, but I was pleasantly surprised by how the author kind of brought it all together and really taught a very nice and moral message, in the book. So I would suggest this book if you don't have a problem with Chinese fairy tale lore kind of stuff. So there's a mention of goddess, and there's a mention of an evil spirit and things like that. So that is very Chinese. You kind of have to think about it I guess if you don't have a problem with Homer's Odyssey, you know, it's about made up stories about Greek gods and stuff like that. So, you know, it's obviously made up, but great moral message, really, really good book. Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Now, the second book that I'm going to talk about is also written for 8 to 12-year-olds. It's more of a historical novel. It's called, and I hate how they do this. I think the library covers up part of the title. I don't know why they have to do that. Tru and Nelle, a novel by G.Neri, and it's based on the real-life friendship of Truman Capote and Nelle Harper Lee. You might recognize those names, parents. Truman Capote wrote the book In Cold Blood, the nonfiction crime thriller novel, and then Nelle Harper Lee, of course, wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. So, and I wasn't aware of this. I love Harper Lee. I've never read In Cold Blood because I'm not a big crime novel person, but love To Kill a Mockingbird. They were friends. They were friends in real life. And so this author takes stories from their childhood. She embellishes, he or she, is it a boy? No, it's a boy. He embellishes the stories a little bit, adds some things in, but a lot of the things that are in this book happened to Harper, or Nelle, as she's known in the book, and Truman. the book does contain some things that's why I'm kind of hesitant to say 8 to 12, like maybe a little closer to the like 11, 12, 13, 14. The way it's written, it's definitely written more for younger audiences, but there's some more like heavy topics. If you are aware or know the storyline of To Kill a Mockingbird, there's a lot of the To Kill a Mockingbird elements in this book. And a little bit, well, a little bit of the In Cold Blood, as far as like the crime solving. There's not a murder or anything. But these two are friends, and they're trying to solve a mystery. So it is more of a mystery novel. But each chapter is kind of like a little story, like a little adventure that they go on, kind of, and then it all kind of culminates in one big adventure. So, but there are some elements in here that are a little more serious. So there's abandonment. Truman is kind of abandoned by his parents. There's some divorce. There's, well, it took place in the 1930s. Yeah, 1930s, the Great Depression. Segregation, racism, because it takes place in the South. Ku Klux Klan is in there, but it's seen through the eyes of children, so they don't really understand. Like, there's a burning cross. They don't really understand the seriousness of it, so it's really seen through their eyes. So there's no violence. There's a little bullying. Truman is beat up by a bully once. Let's see, there's a little bit of voodoo reference, because apparently Truman's he stays with his like third cousins, and they're all adults, and their cook she's kind of a voodoo person. So she does mention like some spirits and stuff, but it's not really a big thing. It's just like who she is, and they record that. So so there are some more serious things. Halloween is a big part of the story towards the end. So some people keep Halloween, some people don't. I personally do not keep Halloween. So I don't know, like, when Asher gets old enough to read a book like this, as long as, you know, he understands that we don't keep Halloween, I don't have a problem with him necessarily reading about it, but you might. So just putting that out there. It's just a Halloween party. It's kind of like in To Kill a Mockingbird. There's, in the end, there's like a Halloween thing going on at the climax of the book. So it's reflective of that. And it's reflective also of what really happened to Tru and to Tru and Nelle. Tru had this big Halloween party before he left the town where Nelle lived. So again, it's more of a historical fiction. There are some elements of truth in there. It's kind of an interesting introduction to these two famous authors. And maybe it's kind of a good introduction to someday your kid reading To Kill a Mockingbird. So those are my reviews of these two books. I hope they are helpful to you, and maybe you'll be able to suggest these two books to your kids. Maybe there's something that they would like about these. So I will link below to my website, where I will have like a little blog post about these, but also links to Amazon and to abebooks.com. They're newer, so I don't know, Abebooks, it may not be cheaper to get at Abebooks, so, but I'll link below so you can see them. And your local library should have them because they're relatively new. Again, hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.